Так, добрый вечер. Всем привет. Сегодня мы проходим Dear Esther Landmark Edition. Я понимаю, игра коротенькая. Если повезет, если мы успеем ее пройти часа за полтора, есть вероятность, что можно еще пройти Stanley Parable за один вечер. Продолжаем ходилки. Как это? Бродилки, стрелялки. Как все по классике. О, тут даже с авторскими комментариями. Ну, давайте посмотрим.
Dear Esther, the morning after I was washed ashore, salt in my ears,
Субтитров нет, да?
the waves always at my ankles, I felt as though everything had conspired to this one last shipwreck.
Есть субтитры? Звук. Что такое скрытые субтитры?
I remembered nothing but water, stones in my belly and my shoes, threatening to drag me under to where only the most listless of creatures swim.
Непонятно, что такое скрытые субтитры. Ну ладно, давайте попробуем так. Может быть. Как-то немножко неплавно камера поворачивается. А сколько FPS? Нет, 144. Интересно. Ну ладно. Вот начинается, блин, так. Полноэкранный, 16:9, яркость, поле зрения. Яркость дополнительно высокая, 8х. Включено. Окей, хорошо. Ладно, может привыкну, может быть попробовать из полноэкранного в... Нет, полноэкранный. Фак, может быть включить вертикалку. Хз, поймешь. Ладно, привыкну. Немножко просто подергивается. Неплавно. Так, они хотят, чтобы я в этот дом зашел. Фонарь включился сразу. Вот это забота о пользователе. Сейчас, секунду. Так, ну поэтому все как бы окей. По GPU. Ладно, видимо, они не знали, что есть 144 герцовые мониторы. Что люди будут этим заниматься. О. Химическая формула. Так, тут больше ничего нет. Кроме химической формулы. Ладно, пойдем дальше. Вниз или... Пойдем вверх. Не зря сюда перся. Интересно. Так, красивенько, конечно. Field of View бы побольше немного. Чтобы прям совсем масштаб почувствовать. Ладно. Пошел не туда. Увлекательное путешествие. Ну, выглядит, скажем так, грязненько все. Водичка красивая, песочек, текстурки камней грязненькие. Пакеты. Это ловушки для крабов, если мне не изменяет память. Сейчас, секунду. Паблик, все окей. Хорошо. Так, сейчас включу мониторинг стрима. Ладно, поехали дальше. Я могу здесь за камень зайти. О, вот включились субтитры.
A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6 and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
What the heck? Письмена.
I have found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
Так, я в тупике. Ну, то есть пока не совсем понятно. Нет, сменил начало стрима не на постоянку. Так получается, иногда пораньше получается освободиться, иногда попозже. Ну, где-то в районе этого времени. К сожалению, я не могу точно предсказать свое время освобождения. Поэтому по-всякому. Вчера мы с коллегами ходили в ресторан-бар посидеть. У меня, оказывается, есть вечерняя ночная жизнь. Я сам офигел. Я обычно, если что-то отменяется, я в Дискорде пишу. В нашем этом, в стриминг-канале. Если вы хотите быть в курсе всего, что происходит, читайте Дискорд. Это официальный источник информации по поводу стримов и всего такого. Привет, Алекс. Сорс прям в глаза бросается. А тут я тебя, короче, это обломаю. Алекс, это Landmark Edition, он на Unity переписан. Короче, изначально, может быть, игра была на Source, а Landmark Edition, они его переделали на Unity. Но пока я не понимаю, что происходит. Я просто бесцельно пока хожу по острову. И вот по триггеру мне какой-то мужик начинает в ухо какие-то странные факты выдавать.
Perhaps it is fitting that my only companion in these last days should be a stolen book written by a dying man.
Ну что поделать. Фриман. Вот такова судьба, значит, не знать, что дядь Миш пухает по вечерам и не стримит.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this. To keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Удивительно, конечно. Удивительная пока игра.
We are not like Lot's wife, you and I. We feel no particular need to turn back. There's nothing to be seen if we did. No tired old man parting the cliffs with his arms. No gifts or Bibles laid out on the sand for the taking. No tides turning or the shrieking gulls overhead. The bones of the hermit are no longer laid out for the taking. I have stolen them away to the guts of this island, where the passages all run to black, and where we can light each other's faces by their strange luminescence.
Ладно, игра пока максимально странная.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet.
Я могу так пойти?
Responsibility had made him old.
Могу.
Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Нет, не могу. Не стоит мне сюда идти. Окей. Я все понял. Но в целом, видимо, не была задача смена движка Source на то, чтобы Source на Unity для того, чтобы, не знаю, сделать игру красивее или что-то. Может, они просто, не знаю, хотели на консолях проще выпустить. Игра есть на консолях или нет?
I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures.
Что-то писюны нарисованы на стенках. Опять та же самая формула. Ну, я думаю, что это формула. Я надеюсь, что это формула. Окей. Пока непонятно. Непонятно. Угу. Но здесь нет выхода никуда. Это... Или подождите, или вон там что-то слева было. Игра бесплатная? Может быть, я не смотрел на цену. Она у меня была каким-то образом, каким-то чудом в Steam библиотеке. И причем даже две их версии, обычная и вот это вот Landmark Edition. Так, окей, значит, пока ничего не понятно. Значит, так, вот я пришел оттуда, и мне, наверное, вот сюда теперь. Вот, на блоксе Xbox есть. Вот, наверное, поэтому и портировали на Unity. Потому что я не уверен, что для Source есть доступный инструментарий для работы на консолях. И, скорее всего, Алекс, можешь проверить, если на плойке и Xbox это Landmark Edition сразу или нет? Если это Landmark Edition, значит тогда понятно, почему переводили на Unity.
The vegetation here has fossilized from the roots up. To think they once grazed animals here, the remnants of occupation being evidence to that. It is all sick to death. The water is too polluted for the fish, the sky is too thin for the birds, and the soil is cut with the bones of hermits and shepherds. I've heard it said that human ashes make great fertilizer, that we could sow a forest from all that is left of your hips and ribcage, with enough left over to thicken the air and repopulate the bay.
Пока у меня только одна большая проблема. Я так как не понимаю, кто я, что я, и я не понимаю, как со мной связан вот этот рассказ, который у меня нарративно начитывается. Угу, я понял. Написано, что специально для порта на macOS и Linux. Но в целом, скажем так, только отважные люди сейчас будут проект делать на сорсе. Это из крупных проектов на сорсе осталась только компания, которая Respawn, которая Titanfall и Apex Legends делает. Это вот единственные люди за пределами.
Dear Esther,
Так и в какую-то яму.
the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But
Так
although I
не
have
стоило в яму прыгать или наоборот стоило?
reference them within a millimeter using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turnoff for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rearview mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Пока для меня это выглядит как просто рассказ в декорациях. Не-не-не, никакого Dark Souls дня рождения. Если бы я что-то отмечал, связанное с Dark Souls, я, наверное, бы сидел бы просто и плакал уткнувшись лицом в подушку. Так, прыгать тут нельзя. Вон грязный корабль. Так, подняться нельзя. Нельзя. На корабль зайти, похоже, нельзя. Или можно вот здесь? Нет, нельзя. Каким-то чудесным образом игра понимает, куда я иду дальше. Вижу там буёк. Точнее, каким-то необъяснимым... Оу.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
Neither did he eat nor... И он не ел и не пил. Сейчас первое слово. И он не ел и не пил. Вот значок. Но дальше мне нельзя. Дальше меня не пускают. Так, здесь я тоже не могу. Ладно. Мне, наверное, тогда туда вон дальше. Очень странно. Ну, я сам виноват. Я сам сюда в это ввязался. Звук в игре хороший, атмосферный, но он не работает в помещениях. Нет реверберации. То есть я ожидал, что я сейчас пройду через вот этот вот контейнер, и у меня немного заглушится звук ветра. Но этого не произошло. Ой, увлекательно.
An imagined answer phone message. The tires are flat, the wheel spins loosely, and the brake fluid has run like ink over this map, staining the landmarks and rendering the coastline mute, compromised. Where you saw galaxies, I saw only bruises cut into the cliff by my lack of sobriety.
Ладно. Он говорит довольно таким высоким слогом, что почти поэтичным, что мне, извините, очень сложно воспринимать это безобразие. Есть такая у меня сейчас претензия. В 2008 был релиз как мода, потом в 2012 как отдельная игра, в 2014 порт на Unity, в 2016 релиз на консолях. А, теперь все логично, да. То есть изначально это был мод на сорсе. Ну таким, да. Попахивает Half-Life'ом. Прям так очень хорошо. Стоп. А, я вроде отсюда и пришел, нет? А куда мне дальше? Вообще непонятно. Я вроде отсюда пришел. Ага, и меня не пускает. Ладно. Значит, я не все осмотрел. Блин. Я не понимаю, куда мне идти. Чертила. Так, в той стороне я вроде все осмотрел. Может быть, здесь где-нибудь? Да, такое медитативное приключение. Я в целом не против. А, вон куда дорога идет. Вон там вот. Можно было направо пойти. Окей, ладно. Тут еще, судя по столбику, вроде что-то наверху есть, но я не уверен. Вон, да, вон там забор. Но меня туда пока не пускает. Угу, ладно, видимо, придется спускаться. Но в целом игра позволяет, не знаю, понаслаждаться природой. Игра это я так в скобках. Игра это обычно есть геймплей. А мне, наверное, вон туда. Геймплея тут нема. Просто ходишь, бродишь. Да, и воистину симулятор ходьбы.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Он говорит про камень в почках. У меня как-то выходил камень из почек. Это было очень больно. Было дело. Началось с того, что рейс... С утра проснулся, рейс в желудке и не проходит. Я сначала подумал, что я накануне ел рыбу и проглотил случайно проглотил косточку.
I will stash the last vestiges of my civilization in the stone walls and work deeper from there. I'm drawn by the aerial and the cliff edge. There is some form of rebirth waiting for me there.
Ладно, мне очевидно в этот домик. В общем, никого не советую. Выходящий камень в почках.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Опять тут всякие писюны нарисованы.
When the oil lamps ran out, I didn't pick up a torch, but used the moonlight to read by. When I've pulled the last shreds of sense from it, I will throw Donnelly's book from the cliffs and perhaps myself with it. Maybe it will wash back up through the caves and erupt from the spring when the rain comes, making its return to the hermit's cave. Perhaps it will be back on the table when I wake. I think I may have thrown it into the sea several times before.
Тут кто-то жил. Блин, спальный мешок действительно как будто из Half-Life притащили. Ой. Ой, птичка. Ой, страшно. Почти скример. Угу. Угу. Ладно, пойдем тут сарай еще осмотрим. Игра на Source-движке очень на Half-Life 2 визуально похожа. Изначально она была на Source-движке, это ремейк на Unity. Но все равно Visuals остался такой же. Прикинь, это ремастер, Винсент. Так-то да, видимо они, так как это был мод Half-Life, скорее всего, они заимствовали большое количество текстур из движка. Видимо, это объясняет все. Я не понимаю, куда я двигаюсь. Ой. Ой, тут страшно.
Jakobsen's ribcage, they told Donnelly, was deformed, the result of some birth defect or perhaps a traumatic injury as a child. Brittle and overblown it was, and desperately light. Perhaps it was this that finally did for him. Unable to contain the shattering of his heart. In half-light, his skeleton a discarded prop, a false and calcified seabird.
Ну, пока ничего, кроме атмосферы и рассказов, которые я пока никак не могу абсолютно связать с собой.
Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft. But I cannot corroborate this story.
Так, мне в эту пещеру, видимо.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
О, сталактиты, сталагмиты. Шахта. Понятно. Упал, поскользнулся.
Donnelly did not pass through the caves. From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us, and whatever correspondence can be drawn from the wet rocks.
О, блин, пещера. Класс. Кто тут свечку зажег? Вот это очень красиво. Я вот оттуда свалился. Свет хорошо сделан. Всякие вот эти вот пещерные дела. Вот эти вот штуки люминесцентные. Грибы. Петрекс. Уважение за годный. Я пока не могу понять, Равикс, во что я играю. Ну, то есть, и как история связана, то, что там нарративчик читает, как связано с тем, что я вижу.
I first saw him sat by the side of the road. I was waiting for you to be cut out of the wreckage. The car looked like it had been dropped from a great height. The guts of the engine spilled over the tarmac, like water underground.
Амогас. Окей, здесь ничего, мне действительно, наверное, сюда. Уникальный аудиовизуальный опыт. Ну, я просто цепляюсь, ищу в этом происходящем игру, что ли. Пока вижу только атмосферу. Но очень крутую. Так, мне, наверное, вниз надо. Плюх. Такая игра побродить по острову, понаслаждаться атмосферой. Пещера топовая, конечно. Может, стоило играть в нее на геймпаде, чтобы более плавно поворачиваться. Геймпад работает, кстати. Говоришь, понятнее будет? О, давайте на геймпаде буду играть. Так приятнее ходить. Так приятнее с миром взаимодействовать на геймпаде. Ух. Просто не хочется делать резких движений, как на мышке обычно. О, привет, Антон. Смотрю, у нас видеоигры на стриме.
If the caves are my guts, this must be the place where the stones are first formed. The bacteria phosphoresce and rise, singing through the tunnels. Everything here is bound by the rise and fall, like a tide. Perhaps the whole island is actually underwater.
Вижу значок. Может, по значкам надо двигаться? Хотя и вот значок. Ладно, разберемся. Привет, Саша. Да, запись заблочили, она сейчас дообрабатывается. Там, короче, проблема. Там оказался щелкунчик в исполнении какого-то оркестра, на которую заявила права компания и просто заблочила worldwide. Там допакуется, я открою архив. Было очень неприятно, конечно. Я еще отдельно, на всякий случай, сам вырезал. Но мне хочется, чтобы айдишник тот же самый сохранился, что и у стрима был. Так, ладно, я, наверное, еще не все здесь осмотрел. Я еще вниз схожу. Надеюсь, что завтра уже будет доступно. Доступна запись. Ну, я там перестраховался, там, короче, будет один момент, я еще руками там звук вырезал, отдельно загрузил, но хочу посмотреть, там что-то у Ютуба какие-то проблемы при перепаковке видео, он начал периодически фигачить статичные кадры. Ну, я в Дискорде там писал, если кому интересно, можно увидеть описание этой проблемы. Там, типа, Если пользуешься встроенным редактором, который в Ютубе, иногда он в последнее время начал корёжить записи. У меня так за последние 2 недели 3 или 4 записи погибло, пришлось с локального архива перезаписывать. Перезагружать. Это YouTube, видимо, перегружен всяким дерьмом сейчас. Либо у них где-то проблема, которую они пока никак решить не могут. Как думаю, в будущем тема с правами на интеллектуальную собственность станет свободнее или будет еще жестче представлять, чем сейчас? Я думаю, будет жестче, потому что ценность интеллектуальной собственности она растет с каждым годом. Я думаю, будет наоборот сложнее. Права на произведение, на музыку, на тексты. С этим будет все сложнее. Ну, в целом проблема не в проблема не в правах, а чтобы люди зарабатывали на своем труде. Вай, что за пупырки? Я попал в какую-то... в туннель пупырок. Жесть какая.
This is a drowned man's face reflected in the moonlit waters. It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drunk drive you home.
Так, пора выбираться из этих пещер. Несмотря на то, что здесь атмосферно. Узри, Дамаск захвачен, забран. Ух. Не могу понять. Там в каком-то в одном тексте упоминали Дамаск. Да, я пока не был. Так это, кстати, электросхемы электрические. Окей. Это принципиальные схемы какого-то оборудования. Угу. Удивительно. Away from being a city? And it... Я не могу прочитать, что здесь написано. And it shall be a... Последнее слово help. Ruinous help. Я не знаю, что это такое. Не могу прочитать слово. Надо было в эти надписи какие-то субтитры, что ли, включить. Потому что читается очень тяжело. Запрещенное слово. Так, а дальше-то что? Ага. Сюда. Ну, Германия давно славилась своим. Там же у вас в Германии до сих пор, точнее не до сих пор, а всегда за торренты, например, наказывали. Тебе может потом счет прийти. Ай. Я думал, я смогу войти. Внезапно оказался под водой на шоссе. Машинки. Непонятно. Очень странная сцена. Да, у Ютуба нормально на самом деле все с монетизацией. То есть с DMCA с обработкой лучше, чем, скажем, у Твича. У них нету вообще никакого damage контрола по поводу DMCA страйков. Да, сегодня Диабло выходит, но никакого желания во вторую Диаблу играть у меня нету. Я пытался, играл в бету, но что-то у меня так ничего и не зачесалось. Серега кипятком писает. Серега он купил. Собирается играть. А еще и на свече будет играть. То есть, типа, он ее купит, чтобы... Там же есть кросс-сейв. Ты можешь между платформами. Сейвы. То есть жалко, что нету такого в третьем Диабло. Оно у меня есть куплено на всех платформах абсолютно. Как мне нравится атмосфера, но я пока не понимаю, в чем сюжет. Пока не могу разобраться.
Did he paint these stones or did I? Who left the pots in the hut by the jetty? Who formed the museum under the sea? Who fell silently to his death into the frozen waters? Who erected this godforsaken aerial in the first place? Did this whole island rise to the surface of my stomach, forcing the gulls to take flight?
Если бы я умел читать радиос... Во, вот это видон вообще. Хоть скриншоты делай, или хоть, не знаю, скринсейвер из такого. А, за сюжет в конце станет ясно. Окей, хорошо, я понял. Да, саундтрек, наверное... Ой. 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 Чуть не потонул. Ладно, пойду по фонарикам. Вот сюда пойду. Зачем меня игра заставила сюда прийти? Чтобы просто полюбоваться? Окей. Чуть не умер в игре. А игра тебя просто откидывает назад. Я уже тут тонул пару раз. целом, если из этой игры убрать музыку, она будет вообще странной игрой. Вот представьте сейчас, если выключить звук, я просто хожу и вообще ничего не происходит. Музыка хорошая. Но музыка вызывает уважение.
Dear Esther, I find each step harder and heavier. I drag Donnelly's corpse on my back across these rocks, and all I hear are his whispers of guilt, his reminders, his burnt letters, his neatly folded clothes. He tells me I was not drunk at all.
Нет, Томаса Узлон не было. Я еще не добрался до глубин таких игр. Фотография. Кто это? Женщина какая-то. С разбитым стеклом рамка. Озвучка другая. Это ремастер. Это не просто Dear Esther. Это Dear Esther. В заголовке написано. Как это правильно называется? А, нет, не написано. В описании, видимо, я тогда включил. Landmark Edition называется. Вот там действительно ремастер по звуку и картинка. Картинка тоже.
There were chemical diagrams on the posters on the walls on the waiting room. It seemed appropriate at the time. Still life abstractions of the processes which had already begun to break down your nerves and your muscles in the next room. I crammed diazepam as I once crammed for chemistry examinations. I am revising my options for a long and happy life.
A light from the heaven. Gun and... Нет, это не gun. Что это? Won't. Don't. Around him. Вот это не могу распарсить слово. Light from heaven. Want, может быть, want has a shore? Shore. Around. Окей, блин, очень сложно. Не понимаю. Непонятно.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
On a sudden, a light from heaven. Вот здесь. And he fell to the ground. Окей, та же самая надпись, только полностью. А дальше что? Сюда? А, вот они, кораблики. Так. Может быть, тут выше? Или мне сейчас как раз... Оу, я вот не заметил вот это расчерченное на... Мне, видимо, в этом направлении, мне к маяку. Или это радио... Нет, это не маяк, это радиовышка. Хорошо. Блин, я сейчас столько шкандыбать. Да-да-да, там было что-то про радиовышку.
I will drag my leg behind me. I will drag it like a crumpled hatchback, tires blown and sparking across the dimming lights of my vision. I'm running out of painkillers and am following the flicker of the moon home. When Paul keeled over dead on the road to Damascus, they restarted his heart with the jump leads from a crumpled hatchback. It took 21 attempts to convince it to wake up.
Есть вышки, как крафтить. О, я вижу, там чувак стоит. Или какая-то просто фигура. Так, я тут не могу, наверное, залезть пока.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
And as he was proceeding on his journey, где смог прочитать? Так, а здесь же кто-то стоял. А теперь его уже больше нет. Так, я это все прошел. Блин. Здесь кто-то стоял. Это я точно помню. И в то время, как он продолжал свое путешествие... Где-то должна быть вторая часть этой фразы. Ага. And was come near to Дамаск. И когда он уже приближался к Дамаску, вообще крепота началась. And he was...
If only Donnelly had experienced this.
3
He
days
realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis.
without
Retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
sight. А вот тут что? And neither did he eat nor drink. Это уже повторяется фраза. В целом мир открытый, но ты всегда понимаешь, куда тебе надо идти. Ну, почти всегда. За счет грамотного расположения лендмарков.
The stones in my stomach will weigh me down and ensure my descent is true and straight. I will break through the fog of these godforsaken pills and achieve clarity. All my functions are clogged, all my veins are choked. If my leg doesn't rot off before I reach the summit, it will be a miracle. There are 21 connections in the circuit diagram of the anti-lock brakes. There are 21 species of gull inhabiting these islands. It is 21 miles between the Sandford Junction and the turn-off for home. All these things cannot, will not be a coincidence.
Так, еще одна формула. Да, вот с этих, конечно, изображений хоть обои лепи. And ой, я ничего не вижу уже. That is made journey. Надо было дальше читать. And was some там что-то опять про Даму, блин, я чуть не развернулся. Опять про Дамаск.
A gull perched on a spent bonnet, sideways, whilst the sirens fell through the middle distance and the metal moaned in grief about us. I'm about this night in walking, old bread and gull bones, old Donnelly at the bar gripping his drink, old Esther walking with our children, old Paul as ever, old Paul. He shakes and he shivers and he turns off his lights alone.
Что ты имеешь в виду, Денис, под словом балдеж? Говорите со мной на понятном языке, пожалуйста. came into... Когда экшен в этой игре. Здесь нет экшена. Это игра прохождением по мукам.
I am the Ariel. In my passing, I will send news to each and every star. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an Ariel, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
Еще как прыгну. Мне управлять ничего не дают. Я птица. А почему ж я все это время ходил пешком и медленно? Почему я летать не мог? Привет, Саш.
Come back.
Так, короче, нужна пояснительная бригада. Это очень странная игра. Нет, я не играл в Darkness 2. Короче, я, конечно, впечатлен, но я ничего не понял. Это нужна пояснительная бригада. У меня почему-то я не смог погрузиться в рассказ. Чувак умирает, попал в аварию. Хорошо. Петрол, потом будет Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Нет, сейчас будет Stanley Parable. Я понял, что я слишком быстро прошел эту игру, а Stanley Parable я могу тоже еще до этого самого. Болверин, а ты сам до этого догадался? Или ты, это, как говорится, ты умный? Ну, то есть, с уважением произношу, на самом деле. Ну, то есть, либо ты где-то прочитал. Ой, здесь нет музыки. Сейчас. Давайте-ка пояснение. Пояснение. Dear Esther. 50 на 50. Так, нашел что-то. О, интересно, словосочетание Dear Esther очень похоже на disaster. То есть несчастье, беда или катастрофа. Сейчас найду, что умные люди пишут. Так, сейчас что-нибудь интересное найду здесь, чтобы можно было прочитать. Так, действие игры, которое представляет собой не экшен, а интерактивную новеллу, происходит на необитаемом острове Фантоме в гибридском архипелаге и сопровождается загадровым голосом рассказчика, читающим отрывки письма, адресованного некой женщине по имени Эстер. Головоломки и враги в игре отсутствуют. Игровой процесс заключается в перемещении по пространству. Всего клуб главного героя 112, который привязан к 40 опорным точкам игрового пространства. Так, самое интересное заключается в том, что при прохождении одной и той же точки в разной последовательности игрок знакомится с разными репликами, поэтому игру рекомендуется проходить несколько раз. А, вот почему. Видимо, у меня не сложилась полная картина. Или, может, я тупой. В игре помимо главного героя рассказчика фигурирует посредством упоминаний еще несколько персонажей. Это картограф Доннелли, исследовавший остров пастух Якобсон, который жил на острове, умер от болезни, безымянный отшельник, который не хотел ни с кем общаться, а также люди по имени Пол и Эстер, которые как-то связаны с автокатастрофой. Идентичность всех этих персонажей очень туманная и может вызвать совершенно различные интерпретации. Кроме того, можно увидеть нескольких призраков, но всегда издали. В некоторых точках под определенным ракурсом. В действии призраки никак не участвуют. Сюжет игры локализован в 4 местах: маяк, буй, пещеры, радиоантенна. Сложность восприятия усугубляет многочисленные странные артефакты и знаки на острове. Так, теперь я вкратце изложу свое понимание персонажа. Оно может быть легко оспорено, но при этом прелесть этой игры, что она принципиально плюралистична и прав любой ее интерпретатор. На мой взгляд, на самом деле персонаж только один, а все остальные, кроме Эстера, являются той или иной мере его проекциями. Главный герой разбился в автомобильной аварии и умирает в лечебнице. Пастух Якобсон, обитавший на остров, его первая проекция, скажем так, наиболее примитивная и отчужденная. Не зря в сознании героя Якобсон является скандинавом, то есть чужаком. Составляющая. Якобсон умер от болезни, а останки его были сброшены жителям острова в колодец. Символ полного уничтожения и составляющая личности главного героя, отчуждение его части самого себя. Картограф Доннелли. Проекция интеллектуальной составляющей главного героя. Часть я могу считать его лечащим врачом. Картографирование остров это его акт самопознания. Но при этом Доннелли болен сифилисом, символ разрушения тела, и пристрастие к настойке опия, символ лекарств, по сути бесполезных в данной ситуации, кроме более утоляющей функции. Кроме того, этого персонажа можно ассоциировать с американским писателем, оккультистом Игнатиусом Доннеллем, годы жизни 1831-1901, который разрабатывал теорию Атлантиды, поэтому внесение в сюжет игры персонажей по фамилии Доннелли наводит на мысль о какой-то то ли мистификации, то ли добровесного заблуждения. В любом случае, это не что-то сомнительного, поэтому того, чему не стоит безоговорочно доверять. Безымянный отшельник — проекция той части личности главного героя, что стремится к зачуждению от нашего мира. Несмотря на то, что, как говорится в одной из реплик, жители острова тяготели к отшельнику, он не хотел с ними общаться. Он желал погружения в то, что за пределами мира. Так, человек по имени Пол — это и есть основная составляющая основного героя. Пол не связан с островом, он остался в исходном мире. Поскольку главный герой сам виноват в катастрофе, вина и ответственность возложены на проекцию в виде Пола. 21 минуту, магическое число, которое он еще раз встречает в сюжете, Пол пробыл без сознания, его мозг в состоянии гипоксии, безнадежно нарушенный, в конце своего функционирования способен лишь на галлюцинации. Однако этот же разум рождает образ рая Дамаска, что позволяет связать его с апостолом Павлом. Имя Пол, конечно же, не случайно. Обращение Саула на пути в Дамаск — один из эпизодов жития апостола Павла, сыгравший колоссальную роль в его обращении к христианству. Короче, эта игра не для обычных людей, это людей, которые знакомы с историей и религией. В Библии сказано, что Савл встал с земли и с открытыми глазами никого не видел. И повели его... Короче, не для тех людей, которые в Call of Duty в прошлом году 400 часов наиграли. И 3 дня он... Коматозное состояние главного героя в реальности, а не его в иллюзиях на острове путь к обретению веры в жизнь после смерти. Кто же такая Эстер, к которой обращены письма главного героя? На мой взгляд, это чисто иллюзорный образ, в котором сплелись аварии и путь героя после нее. Словосочетание Dear Esther очень похоже на слово disaster, то есть несчастье, беда и катастрофа. Я думаю, оно означает не только непосредственно автомобильную аварию, но объединяет все потери главного героя в его прежней жизни. Утрата любви, не случайно имя женская вера, надежда, понимание смысла. Мысли главного героя полны чувства вины за свои утраты. В то же время в переводе древнеперсидского библейское имя Есфирь отвечает звезда. Стало быть, выражение «дорогая Эстер» кроется ориентир «путеводная звезда, новый свет для героя». Именно сейчас, после катастрофы, одна постепенно возвращается к нему. К звезде Эсфирь обращены последние слова в игре «Вернись, вернись». Таково мое видение игровых персонажей. Но ключевым персонажем, в принципе, является сам остров, отсюда я далее буду его называть с большой буквы. Во-первых, это аллегория тела главного героя. Маяк символизирует его рассудок, свет маяка угас, так же как усает мозг, созидающий странные иллюзии галлюцинации. Пещера символизирует внутренности и, возможно, вены, разбросаны в беспорядке камни Дольмана, кости, упомянутые несколько репликов камней в почках. А радиоантенна, которая мигает пульсирующим сигналом, символизирует биение еще не остановившееся сердце. Во-вторых, остров — это, конечно, аллегория сознания главного героя. Не просто хаотичный результат продуцирования иллюзий и галлюцинаций, среди которых особенно выделяется призрачное шоссе, где произошла катастрофа. Это новый мир, результат аналога божественного акта миротворчества, последнего и главного дела в жизни главного героя. Не случайно в одной из реплик сказано, что остров в будущем станут изучать теологи. Также однажды герой говорит странную фразу о том, что он любил создавать пустоты. Я воспринимаю это как щели, ведущие из нашего мира в иные, наверное, более совершенные пространственные измерения. Короче, все очень сложно. Что Миша читает? Миша читает What the fuck? Что за хрень я сейчас прошел? Вот что я читаю. То есть это очень сложно. Я не знаю, кому я могу ее рекомендовать. Для собственного понимания у человека должен быть довольно большой бэкграунд, как и жизненный, так и философский. Игра явно не для... Ну, не для меня. Я чек простой. Так. У нас следующая штука. Да, это прям Миядзака. Опросник по буквокеру на английском, дополнительно на русском. Команда русская, можешь по-русски. Но для внутреннего... короче, для внутренних процессов, потому что у нас внутри компании язык английский. Будет проще потом шарить... будет шарить очень проще в... Так, мне не нужна вертикалка. Включена. Ультра. Что-то игра запускается прямо... Так, ну вроде все, они затропаны, все максимум. Окей. Угол обзора можно. Но, видимо, придется... Так, звук. Субтитры. Что такое субтитры? Что такое субтитры? Только субтитры. Полные комментарии. Давайте полные комментарии. Так, звук, видео, клавиатура, мышь. Действительность. Extras, achievements. Тут же ачивка вылезла. Achievement unlocked. Плохо. Так, начать игру.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Так, это история человека по имени Стэнли.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Так, а здесь геймпад? А, здесь геймпад тоже работает. Нет, он не совсем. Так, сейчас мы настроимся. Так, ну здесь, по крайней мере, есть геймплей. Так, клавиатура, мышь. Чувствительность поменьше. Да, вот так. Видео. О, можно вообще мой любимый стробоскоп сделать. Ну ладно, где-то посередине. Окей. Не, так совсем сразу. Я как будто в Quake играю. Ладно. Давайте будем обычными.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Угу. Так, надо идти в митинг-рум. Комната для встреч. Чтобы я знал, где комната для встреч.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ну, давайте попробуем
This was
по-другому.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Я специально это сделал. Вот, комната отдыха.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Так, ладно, давайте просто пойдем.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Не хочу.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Я, короче, нарушаю абсолютно все. Я... Так. Не прыгать.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is, Stanley, your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Так, закрылась. Вот
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone. Oh, no, you can't. Did you unplug the phone? That wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check.
Так, подождите, да, название стрима надо было сменить. Хотя бы и... Стэнли Парable. Так вот. Ой, а теперь я не могу вернуться. Окей. Стоп.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it be?
Подожди, а почему она...
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply...
А почему у меня игра перезапустилась? Что такое? Сейвс. Надо было сохранить. Блин, у меня почему-то все сбросилось. Блин, а чё так-то? Вы там на стриме не видели, что произошло сейчас? Сейчас. Почему-то просто сбросилось все. Удивительно. И, блин, и альтабнуться нельзя. Эй. Окей. Альтаб просто тормозит. Ладно. Ладно, спидраним.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Окей, ладно, теперь дверь налево. Может, защита от гайдов? Типа альтабаться нельзя.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Как не быть уволенной?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Ну, типа, пока все правильно.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ладно. Мы теперь слушаемся, мы теперь хорошие. Executive bathroom. Неплохо.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ладно, хорошо. Как будто напоминает какой-то киностейдж, скажем так.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ой. Мне, кстати, больше нравится не слушаться.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Выход. Да, Пепси. Escape. Ладно, давайте зайдем. Почему бы и нет? Это ж контрол.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
О, сюда. Так, это кнопка выключения камер.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Дровник. Кнопка вызывает лифт.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Я так понимаю, эта игра рассчитана не на одно
He
прохождение.
refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Так. Два, один, два. Непонятно. Когда beginners говорят, а я не знаю, что это. Так, питание.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Давайте, наоборот, включим.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're going to die. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see.
Даже надо, видимо, коды, вот которые на стенках написано. 0521
Even better.
10.
Only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now?
Я не вижу всех кнопок.
You saw that timer, that something in this room was capable of turning it off. I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless.
Я не могу найти кнопку 0.
This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces.
0142. Я не могу найти кнопку 0.
Or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable from the moment we fade in until
Я уже ничего не вижу.
happily ever up.
Все? This is the end? Ха-ха. Окей, я провалил. То есть, по сути, игра — это escape room.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ну ладно. А может и нет кнопки 0. Это вот удивительно.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Вот, давайте
This was
продолжим.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and
Справа.
Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ладно, давайте сюда зайдем.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Нет, мы спорим.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Спасибо.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see, we went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Угу. Ладно. А, я в итоге все равно здесь...
No, this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Блин. Черт. Короче, похоже, слушаться правильно.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ладно.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be...
Это уже другая комната.
Did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Удивительно, конечно. Так, ну... Не знаю, пойдем сюда. Игра, в которой нельзя проиграть, но при этом... Все постоянно меняется. Ой, блин, я попал в какой-то гребаный лабиринт.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Ладно.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Ладно, давайте пойдем назад.
Aha! I knew we'd missed something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart.
Кузьмич играет в игры за Разулина. Я не вижу здесь никакой связи. Я играю в то, что мне чатик подкидывает. Мы идем этот путь вместе.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable adventure line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Так, окей, хорошо. А, окей, даже сюда. А эта дверь раньше была закрыта? Хорошо, ладно.
You see, the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Это какой-то гребаный Монти Пайтон вообще. Офигенно. Жесть какая. Я вообще поклонник абсурдного юмора. Я не думал, что здесь такое будет.
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Окей, ладно, это папоротник. Ладно, я изучил. Все, пошли дальше. Если не слушаться...
We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
Oh, fuck.
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Так, ладно. А если не слушать линию, я тут уже много раз не слушался, и это обычно заканчивалось все очень странно.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Ну ладно, пойдем сюда. Уже без дурацкой линии.
Yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Так, ну я бы придумал сюжет какого-нибудь офисному порнофильма, естественно.
No, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Хорошо.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Ладно.
Oh, hold up, what's this?
Сумбурная концовка.
The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending?
А тут все уже
Am I
описано.
supposed to restart the game eight times? That's really how all this goes?
И Стэнли умирает.
All determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now.
Я тут постою
We'll find out,
просто.
won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if
Так.
all of his co-workers were gone, what could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Блин. Все страньше и страньше.
Stanley came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
Ну ладно. Будем слушаться.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Пробовал ли из окна выпрыгнуть?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Я не хочу в комнату босса. Я там уже был, а вот здесь я еще не был.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that.
Ну, здесь прыгать нельзя. То есть здесь нету прыжка. Все, что ты можешь, это ходить вперед-назад, поворачиваться.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
Я попробую.
This is all a dream.
Я не знал об этом.
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
О,
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and
кстати, да.
Now
Почему я
it was
слушаюсь?
describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain
Блин, уже задрался
this was
бегать.
in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited
Hey!
himself to wake up.
Алло.
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Просыпайся, Соня.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
И это офигенная игра, конечно.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Чего? Теперь я
Mariella woke
женщина.
up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this. So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Так. Что это было за интермиссия? Так, ты говоришь, можно в окно выпрыгнуть?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Не получается. У меня achievement unlocked, you can't jump. Видимо, я часто... Слишком часто нажимал пробел. Ага. Окей, значит, можно встать на коробки. А, вот. О!
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Ah, then in that case we'll continue. But now, here comes the real question. What do you think would have happened if you had told me that you wanted this to stop? Do you think it would have been particularly different? Would I have taken the same idea but rephrased it superficially to fit that answer? Perhaps you never would even have thought of it if I hadn't brought up the issue in the first place. Oh, now think about it. Will it be worth it for you to restart and then come back here just to do the other option? Clearly, this whole gag takes some time. What if the other option is even longer? How long would you spend in total just to have heard all the narration? Oh, and this is rich. Perhaps you've just played the other option, and now you've come to see what happens in this one. So, what do you think? Which choice was the better one? Imagine if you had selected continue on your first playthrough, how tantalizing it would be not knowing what happens when you pick the other option. Indeed, you are one of the lucky ones. Though if the other option is really miserable to listen to, then perhaps you're not. In fact, I'm just going to say that no one who's listening to this is lucky. Well now, I've built up the other option so much that I'm going to stop talking and leave you to your decision whether to come back here, continue with the game, or just sit in this spot forever and ever. Cheers.
Ладно. И ничего не нажимается. Трата. Enter тоже не работает. Что делать? Помогите. Помогите, что делать? А сбой это ты виноват. Что делать? Не нажимается ничего, алло. Рассказчик, вернись. Ладно, ждем. Я пока схожу пописать. Скажите мне потом, будет ли он что-нибудь говорить или нет. Так, он что-нибудь говорил вообще? Были признаки? Я могу здесь часами, похоже, просидеть. Походу надо... рассказчик сказал, может просто здесь тусоваться или может... Да ё-моё. Окей, ладно, хорошо. Спасибо, Ака. Кто этого рассказчика? Слушай, он меня уже бесит вообще. Сейчас, подождите, я тут себе апельсинку скрою. Еще раз прыгнуть, да пошел ты.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ладно, лефт так лефт. Блин.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might come into a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, This keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet.
Нет, кстати, апельсинку я не помыл. Чё, я умру теперь?
Secret pin number 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
Единственное, я понял свою ошибку, она очень плохо чистится. Блин, жрать-то хочется. И играть хочется. У меня какой-то выбор. Не детский. Пожрать или поиграть. Блин, те руки все липкие. Зря все-таки. Я думал, апельсин нормально чистится. Он, знаете, такой, когда кожура пристает к самому апельсину. Да, видимо, проще. Но сейчас уже не проще резать. Сейчас уже все это, блин, потом еще надо мышку придется мыть, блин, и весь заляпанный. Ладно, давайте не пойдем сюда.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Да ладно. Не верю.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Блин. Пойти или помереть? Блин. Ладно, идем дальше. Я не верю этому чуваку.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Это правда. А нет.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Нет.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Нет, короче, как не хотелось бы поесть этот гребаный апельсин, это невозможно просто. Руки теперь все липкие. Так, коридор. Угу. Nature Paintings. Так, 1, 2, 3. The Office. Maintenance room. Блин, а куда идти? Ладно, подойти сюда. А, тут без разницы. Офисные часы. Underground. Записи из ранних версий игры. Что-то перестал говорить. Ладно, не будем здесь задерживаться. Выше можно. Блин, пойду руки помою. Невозможно. Нашел другую наркоманию. Когда Кузьмич пошел по руки, он свернул в первую дверь налево, да? Хлебца рисовая. Со вкусом барбекю. Угу. Ага. По-моему, я знаю, куда мне.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another.
Спасибо.
How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now. It'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time choose.
Я не послушался. Опять? Да, блин.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it be?
Блин.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase,
Так, ладно, опять
Stanley
в офис
walked
босса.
upstairs to his boss's office.
Окей, beginner's guide, тогда да. Окей, сыграю.
The moment he entered
Так, я
his
забыл
manager's
опять код.
office, Stanley froze in his
4825,
tracks.
по-моему.
Not a living soul anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees, bursting into half moans, half sobs, the guttural retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although this keypad guarded the terrible secret of Stanley's past, it had been assigned a 4-digit code so devious and so random that no man could ever hope to guess it. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Спасибо.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ладно, теперь будем слушаться. Я смотрю, разбор The Man of the Culture as well.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building. Stanley's co-workers, the lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Так, сейчас я должен...
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored
Я вижу 1, 2.
from this very
1, 2,
And as the
4
cold
вижу.
reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power
3.
over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Не нажимается пока. Вот 5 вижу, да. Короче, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0 не могу найти. Или это вообще здесь не имеет никакого смысла? Ага, чат на Твиче — это аналог закадрового смеха 21 века. Кстати, да. Интересно. 0, 5, 2, 1. 0521, кстати, встречается 2 раза. Может быть, нулевая кнопка где-то тут? Давайте в этот раз.
He found the source of the room's power. He knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Давайте выключим в этот раз. Что происходит?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Я прошел игру. Beat the game. Окей, ладно, ну мы еще... Типа, если всегда слушаться, это неинтересно.
This was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Но мне такое чувство, что это еще не конец игры. Сейчас диалог уже другой.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Давайте пойдем направо.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Да, контент здесь, конечно, за счет перепрохождения.
A work of art. What was it about this room that called so deeply and so personally to Stanley? Its grace, its subtle charm. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Пойдем вот сюда. Я здесь не допрошел меня.
Following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Вот можно еще сюда попасть.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Ладно.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Нет.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Нет.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Red door. Okay.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped.
Синяя была сзади, блин.
I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Блин.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
Ура, скайсейвер.
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Здесь двери нет. Нифига себе. А если вернуться? О, здесь хорошо.
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
А, можно действительно вернуться. Но я же не могу здесь всю вечность провести. Ну, видимо, это бесконечность. О, наркомания вообще. Красота. Все, и сколько здесь стоять? Вечность? У меня столько нет времени. Скоро придет жена и покажет мне вечность. Я могу здесь, кстати, свалиться, наверное. Не, здесь не буду.
No! What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here. You heard me before, didn't you? You will die! What about this isn't getting through to you? Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Прощай, жестокий мир.
No! Oh, thank God you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room?
Хорошо. О. Здесь еще большая наркомания происходит.
This is what you want. This is where we can both be happy. We really can. If we stop moving, we just have to stop moving.
Ладно, еще разок.
Stanley, go back. There's nothing good that can come from this. No, what do you just not believe me? What can I say to convince you?
Так, прощай, жестокий мир 2.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe
Не
you're just
умеете,
getting
нельзя.
sick out of it. I don't know anymore.
Если что, осуждаем.
To get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over?
Окей.
It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Хорошо.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Да. Это офис Стэнли.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Не,
This
направо.
was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Так, теперь мы не будем
Stanley was so bad at
спрыгивать.
following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Там я на все насмотрелся.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by
А, синяя дверь. Блин,
not asking for me,
бесконечная игра просто.
for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Так, и здесь надо поднять трубку. Я не поднимал трубку.
You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick
Поднял трубку.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see
Что за игра? Это
something.
Stanley Parable.
Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Здорово, дорогая.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Доброе утро, работник 907. Нажмите Е на клавиатуре.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Нажмите 5.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Нажмите 7.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Нажмите 8, чтобы смотреть ТВ.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Нажмите Z, чтобы поиграть с сыновьями.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Нажмите N, чтобы приготовить ужин.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Нажмите 9, чтобы рассказать детям
It
сказку.
was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end. that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Нажмите Z, чтобы сказать своей жене, что вы ее любите.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be?
Окей, у него квартира опять превращается в его офис.
Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Нажмите Z, чтобы пойти спать.
Tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Нажмите N, чтобы пойти утром на работу. Я не буду нажимать. Или надо? Ме. 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 Блин. Ладно, придется.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Окей, заново. Так. Что я еще не выбирал?
And Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Эта игра вообще бесконечная.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Надо попробовать продолжать в синюю дверь там ходить.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley,
сейчас попробуем еще раз.
I've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing in your trust.
Я уже вводил код раньше времени.
But the fact is that the story has
Не заставили музыку послушать.
you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map, because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing, because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Aha! You see, I knew I was onto something. Where do these flashes of inspiration come from? How did I know the game needed a third door? Well, it's instinct mostly, a calling in your gut. I really couldn't say where the idea came from, except that I felt it in my soul. You can't teach that, Stanley. Don't even try. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Leaderboard. Это я? Я на последнем месте. Friendly. Окей, ладно, еще разок. Господи, игра меня унижает вообще. Dead Red is offline. Господи. Все, закончилось. Так, еще разок.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Конечно, мотивирует.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game.
Ничего себе, надо нажимать кнопку только.
Endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Охренеть. Там ачивка за 4 часа. До свидания, малыш.
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game, just to ease the pain? Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot. Well, Stanley, is this any better? At last, the one thing you've always desired. A game I had absolutely nothing to do with. But is it enough? Tell me this. Will it ever be enough? Well, I'll say this. I'm done making things for you. From now on, I will only create to fulfill a greater artistic purpose. Watch this, Stanley. I'm going to build a house. Here, no, here, and then... Let's see, what does it need? Yes, of course, and just to finish it all off, yes, it's complete. I made this, Stanley. Look at it. Gaze upon my work of art and feel ashamed at your own inadequacy. Ah, but you've only seen it from the outside. You've only gotten half the experience. Please, step inside and make yourself comfortable. Isn't it grand? Isn't it perfect? It could only be better if...
Примерно мой уровень построения дома в Майнкрафте.
Out of diamond. Diamond everything. Yes, yes, yes. Come along, Stanley. We have to go mining.
Так, все, теперь добывать алмазы. Ну чё, пацаны, играем в Майнкрафт теперь? Серьезно, я никогда не играл в Майнкрафт. У меня дочка играет. Ну как играет так? Мы купили ей на планшете, она там всякие... То есть она берет, генерирует мир и его немножко под себя подгоняет. Она очень любит всякие там... Она очень любит всякие лего, то есть мы регулярно лего покупаем, как и все, наверное, дети. Вот она прям в Майнкрафте тоже залипает. То есть мне придется разбираться в Майнкрафте, чтобы находить общий язык с дочкой через какое-то время. О боже. Это же портал. Блин, а ему разрешили вообще это делать? Ну то есть это же, ну такое...
Critical thinking, Stanley. Your forte.
Пипец.
Genius. No, actually, you know what? I think that's plenty. I really don't care much to see you stumble through any more of these games, and I highly doubt you're any wiser for the experience. Which is why, rather than continue to waste my time, I'm just going to leave you here. You can pretend you've beaten the game if it makes it any richer for you, but as for me, I've had enough. So, why don't you get cozy in this room, and if you have any grand revolutionary ideas for the perfect video game, you can just sit there and let it ball up inside you for all eternity. I don't need your advice. I don't need your ratings. And I certainly don't need the validation of a man whose job is to push buttons. I think I'll just go about my business, making meaningful cultural contributions to the world. And perhaps every now and then I'll think back to a man named Stanley who was objectively wrong in every decision he ever made. The thought won't last long. Goodbye, Stanley.
Так, я попал Между уровнями вообще. Так, ладно. Work in progress. Но это тоже, конечно, похоже на портал. Долго я еще тут буду шляться. Похоже на обычный день рассмотрения питчей. Это да. Звукорежиссерская. Там был коридор с левой и правой дверью. А меня уже туда не пускает.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice. And if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Все? А, нет, он меня загрузил опять. Будет он мне опять что-нибудь читать? А, тут...
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. He entered the door on his left.
Давайте налево опять. Безумная игра, конечно.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
А какой там код 8245? Блин, я забыл.
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
Вообще упростили все. Мне уже даже не дают вводить.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Так, по-моему, пора уже закругляться.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did
Эту
this
игру
place
пройти
hold?
невозможно.
Stanley thought to
Офигенные,
himself.
конечно,
He had
моменты.
the strength to find
Я обожаю такой тип юмора. А-ля Монти Пайтон, когда у тебя абсурдные вещи происходят с серьезным лицом. И ты стоишь такой на это смотришь, what the fuck. Это прям мое.
Now the monitors
Офигенная
jumped to
игра.
life. Their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an
Вот Эстер не для меня, а вот эта вот игра для меня.
The lives of so many
Похоже, в нее можно играть вообще бесконечно.
screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility.
Сейчас еще раз попробую нажать
Had Stanley really been under someone's
включение.
control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stan? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments.
Это надо в конце.
Precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk
5-2-1.
about me, where we're going. What all this means, I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before your...
Выход есть.
All right, I'm in a good mood.
2,
Die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside.
142.
Let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Any idea what your purpose in this place is? But you really believe there's an answer? How many times will you replay this bit, looking desperately for a solution? 10? 100? 1,000? I look forward to finding out and to watching the bomb go off each time you fail. Just you and me and the retching explosion of fire and metal over and over and over for all of eternity. And Stanley died again. And Stanley died again. And Stanley died again. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending.
Блин, тут явно какую-то загадку можно решить.
Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or
Это, наверное,
it's all the same to me. All
у каждой кнопки
And believe me, I will be
свой
laughing
звук.
every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
Короче, вот эту загадку я не могу решить никак. Ладно, на этом все. Прекрасная игра. Когда у меня будет определенное настроение, я еще с удовольствием ее запущу, поразгадываю загадки. Всем спасибо и спокойной ночи, до завтра. Что будет завтра, я пока не знаю. А, ну да, завтра сначала печи, точно. Завтра же день печей. А что потом будет, не знаю.